Hey guys, welcome to a new BAIV video. I'm Quentin. Today we're going to look at the M26 Pershing named Alice that we restored. So let's get into the video. So we're going to start with the armor, of course. We're going to look at the front. Let's start, of course, with the front. So this is 140 millimeters thick, or 5.5 inches. On front of the turret, you've got 150 millimeters, which is 6 inches thick, so about half an inch more. Of course, got the 30 cal mount here. We've got the name Alice here. We've got some periscope mounts all over there. Actually, 4 periscope mounts on this thing. Towing hooks, and yeah. Of course, also 90mm M3 that's facing you. Of course, I want to talk to you about that later when we're in the turret. So, anyways, let's go to the side. So now we're going to take a look at the side. We're going to start with armor. On the turret, we've got 77mm of armor on the side, which is quite a lot. Then on this we have 76mm, both about 3 inches of armor. And of course we now have the new suspension, the torsion bar suspension, unlike the Sherman, which had the volute suspension, the VVSS or the HVSS. This had some problems over rough ground. The suspension could break if you would drive a little bit too quickly or being a little bit too rough with it. So the suspension does have some problems, but it's pretty good suspension. But it does have its problems. Then we're going to move to the back, which we have now the drive sprockets at the back, not at the front. Unlike the Sherman, the predecessor, of course, it is a plus point because when you get hit from the front, the gearbox doesn't get destroyed, so you can still keep going. Somebody will die, but you can still keep going, so you're still not stuck and get shot up, basically. Yeah, it's very handy to have it at the back, so you can just keep going. So now we're going to take a look at the back. Starting with this, there's a phone here, so you can call with tanks or call support. Then you have a towing cable. The back is about 52mm thick because it's slightly slanted. Then you have towing hook mount, and there's your towing hook right here that you can mount on there and tow whatever you want. Then of course you have your lights and the exhaust. So now let's look at the turret. Of course you've got 150mm at the front, 6 inches. The side is about 3 inches, 77mm in the back. It's also 77mm. You have of course the commander's hatch and cupola from an M4A3 Sherman, or also on an EZ8. You can also find it on an EZ8. There's actually on the hatch you have that part turns. That there are some roller bearings in there, and of course that copper looking thing, or the copper thing, that has all the degrees on it, so you can see where the turret is pointing at, and you can say that you're gonna traverse to that amount of degrees. They of course have an extra sight to look through from the commander's cupola right there. You have the loader's hatch, also found on basically almost all Sherman tanks, at least from 1943 onwards, but that's not a tank. And you have also here a periscope. You've got the antenna also found on the Sherman, that one as well. You have the 50 cal mount behind there. And yes, that is basically from the top of the turret, and also on the side we've got this jack to put tracks together, and we have some extra spare tracks. It does act for a little bit more armor, this though. It acts for about, let's say, 20mm to 30mm, so you have a little bit more armor, but it also helps the shell penetrate. So it helps, but it's actually also very dangerous as well. So let's move to the front. Of course, there's the driver's hatch. Then you've got the co-driver's hatch on the other side. Of course, I have no shoes on to keep the tank as nice as possible, to keep the paint clean, to protect also the paint. So here is of course the 90mm M3 with the HE. The gun is capable of penetrating 13mm of armor. It is an upgrade to the 75mm M3 found on the Sherman. It has a little bit more TNT inside, so it can do more explosive damage. With AP you can penetrate 135mm, which is exactly the same, identical to the 76mm M1 found on the long barrel Sherman and the 8 Sherman. And then you got APCBC, 145mm of penetration, actually 5mm less than the 76mm M1. And then you finally have APCR, which can penetrate 245mm, which is 5mm more than the Tiger II's long barrel 88 gun. But however, it does get outclassed by the British 17 pounder in basically everything except for accuracy. It is more accurate than the 70 pounder, but the 70 pounder does outclass this gun. It's also a lot more powerful than the 85mm D5T found on T34s, the late T34s. So it can penetrate less, 5mm less with APCR than the 76mm M1 found on long barrel Shermans. But it's exactly what you could expect from a gun like this. It performs very well. It is just what you could expect. It's nothing insane like the 17 pounder, but it's just exactly good. It's just good. It's exactly what you can expect from it. So we're gonna go over the turret one more time. On top of the turret, of course, I'm in the commander's cupola. We have these nice vision blocks, which are quite nice. You can see, look very nicely around. Also, on the, of course, the hatch, you've got your degrees here, so you can basically tell your gunner where to traverse to. Which is also very handy. This is on roll bearing, so if you put a periscope in this, you can just look around, no problem, which is very nice. That is something that I personally like quite a lot. Then, of course, you have your aiming system here, but that is for when you look out of the commander's cupola. There's normally a periscope here, periscope mount there. Further, they've got, of course, the antennas, part of the 50 cal mount here, and yeah, basically, of course, also the loader's hatch. So now let's go into the inside. I'm going to talk you through the inside of the tank. So guys, we're now on the turret, and we're going to talk, of course, you got the big gun here, the 90mm M3. Of course, we're going to start with the back, going to move to the front. So first of all, we have the radio here. It's positioned differently than on the predecessor, the M4 Sherman. It was standing like that. Here it's like this, really weird, but I think the reason is so they can have some ammo storage here for the machine guns. So here you have a mirror, so you know which knob you're turning, which is quite handy. And right next, of course, that's basically for it on this side. Then we have on this side, we have, first on the bottom, we've got 50 cal ammunition, and then we've got 30 cal ammunition right on the top. On the back of me here, on the back here, also got two canteens to store some water, water storage there. And turn around, we've got this is actually your optic, your main optic. If this fails, there's normally an optic as well there. You can use that optic. So further, you've got your turning wheel to traverse the turret. This could be hydraulically or manually, and like that is a pretty nice thing. Like the Germans, for instance, didn't have this luxury, having hydraulic turning system for the turret. Also here you have, down here, if you look through here, you have the elevator wheel, so you can elevate the gun up or down. Further here you have how many degrees your turret is pointing at, down here next to the wheel, turning wheel. So this is basically the inside. Also you have intercom on this side and on that side, because of course this is a very loud tank, so you can hear each other better. So also got the periscope for the loader there. This gun reloads in about 9 to 10 seconds. This is your ready rack, also right next to the camera. That's the ready rack. Shells that are ready, so you can just pick them out of there and slam them into the breech. So that's also pretty much why the reload is not as quick, because you need to take the shell and just kind of angle it right and then shove it in. So now let's go to the engine, and I'm going to show you the engine. So on the back of the engine deck, of course we have the Ford GAF engine. It's almost exactly the same as the GAA found on the M4A3 Sherman tanks, and of course the M10 tank destroyer, or the M10 Mark II. The only difference is that this has a lower profile. The GAA is much higher, but the power is exactly the same. But only this engine can propel this tank at 30 miles an hour or 48 kilometers per hour, but only for a little bit of amount of time. The tank's really made for like 25-40 kilometers per hour. It's still pretty reasonable, but this engine this tank weighs about 43 tons, and this engine doesn't have enough power really. It can on the road, it's fine. But like off-road, you really have a lack of power. Like this engine is like perfect for like a 29-ton M10 tank destroyer, but not for everything over 30 tons. It can do it. Like it's a little bit too small for the Sherman. It's perfect for the M10 tank destroyer, but it's way too small or way too less powerful. It's not powerful enough for this tank basically. It can power it, no problem, but it just doesn't have enough power for this tank. It can move this tank, of course, as I said, but it just doesn't have enough power. It's connected to a 3-speed gearbox, 1 reverse and 3 forward. Right there, we've got a small fuel tank here, and the big fuel tank is on the other side of the engine. And then you've got the big cooling system I'm standing on top on. Here you have a small generator normally. That's basically all there is to tell you about on this. So I'm in a driver's position. Of course you have your right brake and left brake, the tracks to turn. You've got your big accelerator pedal. Further you've got oil dials and oil pressure, how fast you're going and stuff like that. Some warning lights, stuff like that. And of course the gear selector. You've got neutral, reverse, first, second and third. And basically you've got a periscope here, of course. On the other side there is the co-driver, and which is really handy as well. The co-driver has exactly the same system. So if I may get hit, on the front here, and if I die, he can still take over the controls and drive off with the tank. I'm Quentin. I really liked talking you through this amazing M26 Pershing tank. Please like, subscribe if you liked the video, and click on the bell icon so you get notified whenever we make a new upload. And I thank you for watching.